Hi, in this video I will be reviewing the magnetic WeiChuang GTS. For this cube I actually use two different types of magnets. Firstly, these are the 1x2 N42 magnets which I got as a tester. And these are N50 magnets of the standard size which I got from CubeWorks as well. First, I'll give some quick pointers about the WeiChuang. I will not be demonstrating that on my WeiChuang because I already magnetized it, but it will have this very hollow, crispy feel, or at least slightly. And it's also quite fast, and it has one of the best corner cutting of any 5x5. Okay, corner cutting doesn't change with magnets, I can show it. What sets the WeiChuang apart from most other 5x5s is the fluidity of the cube. Because of the very large Florian holes, I have a MF5S here. The two cubes look the same on camera, but actually if you look very closely at the holes, the WeiChuang has actually slightly bigger holes. And this allows the cube to be much more fluid when you turn it, but it comes at a price which is a bit more unstable and more difficult to control. And for a while, actually, I've been switching between these two cubes. I don't actually have a solid 5x5 main for a while, until I magnetized my WeiChuang. The WeiChuang's apparent lack of stability compared to most of the other modern 5x5 is where the magnets play a very huge role. So what happens is, for most of the 5x5s on the market, you will either have something that's very stable. I'm using MF5S. This is sort of in the middle of the spectrum, in my opinion. On the extreme end is the WeiChuang that is very stable, and I've tried a few other people's WeiChuangs. I find that they are a little bit too rigid and too blocky for my taste. While on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the WeiChuang, which actually this one will flex a bit more than most other 5x5s. But when you put in the magnets actually hold the layers together a lot better, and the cube actually maintains its cubic shape very well, so it's really the best of both worlds. Okay, you have the giant Florian holes that give you a lot of flexibility, while you also have magnets to keep the cube stable. So you have a stable cube and also a flexible cube. And in addition to that, because the cube has magnets in it, the magnets will also help the layers align to some extent, so there's additional turn accuracy being forced. Now I will go on to how I magnetize my WeiChuang, because there are actually some problems that I ran into when making my earlier magnetic cubes. So first, starting with my this thing, of course the most obvious problem is that the inner layers are quite strong. The outer layers, not too bad, but they are also a bit stronger than what they are on my WeiChuang. So another problem with this is that it's about the weight of a standard 6x6. Of course, this is still a very nice cube and still easily my main actually. But then on the other side, I have the MF4S. This one is magnetized entirely with the smaller magnets, meaning the N42 ones, the 1x2 N42s. And the cube is actually much lighter than a standard magnetic 4x4. It's closer to a normal 4x4 in weight. It's also part of the nature of the MF4S to turn with a very light feel. But the problem with this is that since the magnets are so small, I can actually barely feel the click. So although it's more stable than a regular MF4S, it doesn't quite feel like a magnetic cube. But what I did in the WeiChuang is I mixed the two types of magnets together. So how I plan it is that for every pair of magnets that attract each other, there will always be a big and a small one, but that will lead to a complication. What if I scramble the cube and cause two big magnets to meet each other, or two small magnets to meet each other? I actually plan such a way that that will not happen, and that every piece, like let's say an H piece, right, it will have a very specific place for a small magnet or a specific place for a big magnet, so that for every attraction it's always the same. No matter how I scramble the cube, it will always be a big and a small facing each other, and not two bigs and two smalls. And what I get is an intermediate result. The click isn't as prominent as it is on my Win, but ever since I made this Yen 3 for one of my friends, I actually grown some preference for a lighter click, which this cube sort of gives it as well. One thing about my WeiChuang is that the outer layers actually feel a bit more strongly magnetic than the inner layers, and that has got to do with the structure of the cube. This has nothing to do with whether I magnetize the WeiChuang or not, but I'm going to talk about the mechanism, which is the WeiChuang mechanism is quite radically different from most of the other 5x5s. Like, I'm comparing it to the MF5S here, but most of the other cubes like WeiChuang or WeiChuang, they all have this double anchor design, which we have grown accustomed to. In the case of the WeiChuang, the outer layer actually doesn't go all the way down to the core, like most of the other 5x5s do. The second layer actually covers over the first layer internally. The WeiChuang GTS is one of the best performing 5x5s I've ever used. I actually managed to pull off a sub 130 average of 5 with this cube, and I also broke my personal best with a single timing of 118.708, which actually is also my first sub 120 solve. So this is definitely my main now. Although the Classroom MF5S is another very nice cube that I will still want to use from time to time.